So it's an exciting day and the numbers are all lining up today. So this is show number 11 and we have 111 members in the group this week. So we got all the ones this week. And so this week we have the pleasure of talking about what is a conscious creator and the difference between conscious and unconscious creation. And so it's going to be a very exciting show. We've got a lovely panel of people here to discuss this with us. And so I'm going to start the show off by asking everybody to introduce themselves as quickly as possible and just share with me, what does it mean to be a conscious creator? And how can we cultivate a greater sense of awareness and intentionality in our lives? So it's quite a complex one, but let's see what we can do. What is a conscious creator to you? And Sil, you're first on my screen.
Brilliant. Hi, I'm Sil. I run the Way of E. Conscious creation is precisely all about deliberation, being deliberate, which for me means if I'm going to be conscious, it means I'm knowingly doing something, not just in a bubble of unawareness, not just willy-nilly, not helter-skelter, not all in unawareness. No, deliberate and conscious, which means that it's thoughtful, and what I am doing, I will be prepared to stand behind. I mean it. It's real to me. And this is to me what the power of conscious creation is. Why? Because when we do something with that amount of deliberation, it's coming from deep inside us. In other words, our conscious creation is real us. Yes, that's what it's for me. Sharing what's really you.
Brilliant. Love it. I love that. Yeah. So and Jennifer, you're next on my screen today.
Thank you, Matt. Hello, I'm Jennifer Burns. I'm a certified master hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, talk therapist, and educator. My website is magicmindswellness.com. I have a little bit of a different take on what a conscious creator is. Our conscious mind is a really small part of our mind. When we consciously create something, I believe that we utilize things like our analytical thinking, our decision-making skills. That's what the conscious mind is responsible for. But the conscious mind is always being driven by the subconscious mind, right? And in my opinion, as a hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner, that is the true self. So to consciously create something is to mindfully decide to formulate a plan and to take the steps to bring the plan to fruition is a conscious creation. Was there a part 2 to that question that I left out? It was what is a conscious creator and something else?
Yeah, how can we cultivate a greater sense of awareness and intentionality?
Oh,
It's a tough
okay.
one.
Yeah, that is kind of a tough one. I would say to cultivate a greater sense of awareness and intentionality, to just become mindful of what it is you want and what the necessary steps are in order to receive what it is that you want, and take the steps. Don't just think about them, because that doesn't work. To think of the steps and take the steps.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. And I think that's really important too. Yeah. Taking the steps. Cher, you are next on my screen.
There you go. I'm Cher Unbound, and you can find me just by Googling Cher Unbound or finding me on Facebook. I'm a trauma recovery specialist. Conscious creation, that's actually something that I deliberately have been exploring more recently than ever before. I'm trying to figure out what it really specifically means to me. And the biggest thing that I can come up with so far is deliberateness. It's me being very deliberate about my intent to be aware, to be more authentically myself, and bring more thoughtfulness to the things that I'm doing, to everything that I'm doing, whether it's for someone else or for me. So that's where I'm going to leave that for now.
Yeah, I like that. More thoughtfulness. Really, really. Yeah, definitely. And Gabe, you are next on my screen.
Indeed, I am. Hello, everybody. Conscious creation is it's an amazing thing, because people have been practicing conscious creation since we were born. but we don't know this. We have created the life that we're living right now. And whatever your current age is, if you minus 7 years out of that, that's the first 7 years of your life. That's how long we have consciously been creating our current reality. So in order to create a new conscious reality, we have to practice a lot of new things. We have to first unlearn what we have been doing for the past X amount of years in our lives to be able to now create that new conscious reality that we all want and desire. And it takes a lot. It takes learning how to be mindful, and mindfulness takes you to awareness. Awareness brings you up to consciousness, your current conscious level. And once we start to understand how our energy, our frequency and vibrations, how they correlate to this creation that we are deliberately just creating, we actually start to thrive in our lives. But we can't do that until we get past that emotional problem that we have. And that problem is what we've learned over the last X amount of years of our lives. We don't know how to consciously create because we've never been taught to do that. Only the people in this panel and everybody else in the world who practices any kind of energy healing understands that. But everybody else, the masses who is trying to, since COVID, to try to get a leg up, to get an advantage to their life and create something new, that's the hurdle. Having to unlearn what you've already learned consciously and create a new conscious, method that everybody here talks about and does work. And you'll probably be happy that you did make that change or that choice. It is a deliberate act that requires a thought and an emotion that are a vibrational match. If they're not, the struggle is going to be more. And that's my view on
I know,
conscious
really.
creating.
Yeah, I love it. It's true so much. Unlearn the old and learn the new. So allow it in. John, Mr. Cooper.
Hello. Yeah. So I'm John, and I train people in developing their inner communication to really express their strengths. And in line with that, I would see conscious creation as a proactive integrity, where we are aligned, we're combined within our strengths, but we do it in a proactive way, that we expend ourselves into the world. So obviously, this is much more than just the logical and verbal aspects that we're used to thinking of the conscious mind. And in fact, I think that's a small part of our conscious creation, with the images and the emotions and so on that are not verbal. I don't have to say that to anyone here, but anyway, so for me, conscious creation just means, as the others were mentioning, becoming more of yourself, more deeply and in more ways.
Nice. Becoming more of yourself. Brilliant. And Sander, you're next.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. I'm Sander. I'm a embodiment slash body worker. My company name is Prime Fire. What does it mean to be a conscious creator? I think it's a good point to look at what is not a conscious creator, from my view, because then you can understand what a conscious creator is. We, like some already shared, create our own realities, and by how we grew up and the things that we were taught, we start to build our lives. But that's done most of the times unconsciously. So that has to do with society, the environment you grew up in, and so on and so on. So you're creating something that you're not aware of. And that's where the awareness and in the intentionality comes in, is if you are aware of what you're doing, then you can change that and create what feels that is in line or in alignment with who you are, into your life. And that's the whole thing as well. We say, I live my life, but in how far is that true? In what way is that true? If you're not living your life, then you're probably living someone else's life. And that someone else's life has been created by you, because you can also choose to consciously start living your life and creating that what you need in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really, the answers are all aligning here. So we're all in alignment. So Sander, Jen, you're next. Jen Stover.
Good morning. I'm Jen Stover. I'm a neuroscience-based educator, mentor, and founder of the Human Infusion Project. I use knowledge of the brain and body to guide people to overcome anxiety and develop their brain as a whole so they can create more connected relationships. So when you first asked the question, the words that came up for me were intentional, present, and congruent. Intentional, like a lot of people have been saying, that for me means that I'm striving to use my brain as a whole in combination with my skills and my more energetic nature in pretty much every interaction. That's what I'm aiming for. Present, being in the now and in my senses, which ensures that I'm less apt to be making decisions or choices based on my conditioning, and more likely making choices and decisions based on my core values or what's relevant, like in the moment, right? Congruency for me is about, regardless of what my role is, authentic Jen shows up in my behavior. I see it as my through line or a signature of sorts, right? That regardless of what the situation is, I strive to be kind, life-loving, respectful, creative, sometimes goofy. And some people call that character traits or a signature, but I try to make it consistent across all verticals. So to me, being consciously creative in my actions is intentional, congruent, and present. And as far as how to cultivate it, as a lot of you pointed out, it takes practice, and it takes a willingness to expose yourself to situations that are different. We don't get practice if we only surround ourselves with like-minded people. I mean, it feels good and we like it and it's very affirming, but where we really can practice and hone our skills are in areas that are different or with people that are different than us. So that's my take on it.
Brilliant. No, I love it. Yeah, really very concise, and that was good. I like it indeed. Paul, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Paul. I'm from the UK. I'm a shaman, Reiki master, and a storyteller. I also own a pagan and witchcraft shop, and I help clients to unweave their life script, unweave their life story, so that they can weave a new, more powerful, beautiful, and pristine story. What does conscious creation mean to me? You're in shamanism. We have a concept known as dreaming, and it's quite a big idea. So I'm not going to go for the whole thing because I don't have time. But to focus on the bit that's about creation, we have 3 different types of dream. We have the one that we do when we sleep, when we close our eyes. We have what I call the guest dream, which is or the unconscious dream, and then we have the awake dream, which is that conscious action of whatever's going on in here for intentional action, creating that in the wider world. Now, for me, life is all about the process of balance. And in fact, through all of our actions, we're trying to balance our inner realm with the outer reality. And our inner realm is controlled by the dream that we have in our heads, right? That imagination kind of playful visual thing that goes on inside us. And for the most part, most of us live in the guest dream, so we do it unconsciously. We're thinking about old arguments, patterns, behaviors, things from years ago, things that upset and hurt us, or focusing on things outside of ourselves like wars and stuff, which causes inner turmoil. That inner turmoil then becomes reflected in the outer world. For those of us who become conscious, who use wakeful dreaming, we weave and we create beautiful images within our own mind, within our own spirit, which then filter down into our inner realm, and that inner realm is then reflected in the world around us. And we see beautiful children smiling and beautiful flowers, and people come into our lives that uplift us and uphold us and share beautiful wisdom with us. When we have truly miraculous experiences, synchronicities, vibrational energies that come into our lives, the spirits, whatever terminologies you want to use, that for me is what conscious creation is, and also how to develop that more conscious awareness. And that's just to focus on more beautiful things within the mind, to create that beautiful inner realm, and through the heart to express that out into our outer reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so balancing the inner and the outer, really nice. Awesome. And Anna, artist, you are next.
Good morning, good
Good
afternoon, good evening. I'm Anna. I am a artist. I'm also a visual story activator. I help people through visual art to figure out who they are and what they want to be and where they want to go. What is a creator or a conscious creator? Well, I've always been creative. Being an artist, I'm, by definition, a creative person, but I wasn't always aware of what I was creating. I wasn't aware that I actually could create my life. I thought I was just making pictures on a piece of paper or on a canvas. I had a really interesting event that showed me, with no uncertain terms, that what I was painting and feeling and thinking was coming to be in real life. So for me, what makes a human being are three aspects. We are a body, we are a mind, and we have a heart that connects us to spirit or to soul. And in my line of work, as a visual art, I use all three of those. And why is that important in creation? Because everything is energy. So if you are thinking, if you are doing, and if you are feeling, you are using energy. Most people don't use all three. They use their bodies to act upon what they think, but they're not aware of the energy, the emotional energy that they're putting into it. So for me, to be a conscious creator is to be aware and intentional in all those three aspects of being a human being. And of course, I am biased because art has been used from the dawn of time by humans to create what we desire. The paintings in the Lascaux caves and other cave paintings are a good example of how humans have always used visual aesthetics to create what they want. So that's for me, that's like an amazing tool to use to be a conscious creator, is to use artistic, creative work. You don't have to be an artist to do it, but it really helps. For instance, when we do visual boards, that's what we're doing, visual things. Yeah, so how can we be more aware? Just remembering that the energy that we're using has an effect on the reality that we're creating. So engage your mind, your body, and your heart, your spirit, everything you do in an intentional way so that you create the reality that you want to see in the world. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Really good explanation there. I like that. And Anthony, you are next.
Hey, my name is Anthony Pallison. I'm a holistic peak performance guide specialized in the neuroscience of flow states. I'm based in the UK, and the best way to contact me is to either tag me in a comment with my name, as you can see it just spelled in the video, or on my website, which is next to my name. Yeah, on what is a conscious creator. I couldn't help but give a big smile every time I hear the word intentionality or intentional, because that's my main definition to conscious creation. But I'll also add the aspect of decisiveness and being able to decide, making a decision. And I think decisiveness is one of those skills that not many people realize is a trainable thing. And at some point, I decided in my own story that I would decide to train up my decisiveness. And it has helped make me more intentional, funny enough. And the other aspect of conscious creation is realizing that there is a myriad of things that we can do. And of the myriad of things, millions of different things you could do, whenever you choose one, that means you're rejecting every other thing. And so having the realization that whenever you make a choice to be intentional and pursue something, you're doing so at the opportunity cost of everything else. And one of the aspects of flow state philosophy is to choose to work on high leverage things. And I'll just share what that means. It's what is that thing which is going to have the most positive impact or the best or greatest results in your life relative to what it costs to do or the time it takes, etc. So it's basically looking for the best bang for your buck. So that's just an idea. And there are ways to identify, how to do that. But enough on conscious creating, being intentional and decisive. And as far as cultivating a greater sense of awareness and intentionality, I would say that I have a textbook answer, which is mindfulness, positive psychology, meditation, kind of classics, and it never hurts to hear it again. But the little more personal and philosophical view on that is being able to treat life as an experiment. So even if decision-making or decisiveness is not a thing that has been trained yet in such a way that you have a process that which you make decisions by, knowing that when you don't know what to decide, it's an opportunity to experiment. And when you don't know, that experiment will lead to you collecting the information and the data about yourself in order to know yourself better and become a more conscious and intentional creator. That's from me. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome. And then, Don, did you want to add in on that?
Yeah, I can say a thing or two. So funny thing is, like a long time ago, when, just as I was leaving my secondary schools, we did like this annual school book of statements and things, and I swear I said my statement, my leaving statement I wanted everyone to remember me by was, I want to always be creative. Now that doesn't even necessarily make semantic sense, but I think it speaks to something about the joy I had in always being creative and doing my artwork. I was doing like 3D art design, and how that felt quite different to the studies and everything else that I was doing. And it's interesting that when Anna was raising, like, how, we conscious creation is about being artistic, and, we're all, in the wellness area. And yeah, we're here like trying to create a business at the same time, perhaps being artistic with it. And, that's quite an interesting place. How do we consciously create, through business as well? But something I thought that, yeah, we could also talk about more is the context of conscious creation. We talk about like being aligned through the heart as well. That's good. I think we need to have some kind of orientation towards life, which is what the heart speaks to. And yeah, context is really important. I mean, you could have all these people, all these scientists, like having all the greatest of intentions and in developing some technology, but it's really maybe going to be just tying people up to dependency on other systems and other powers. So context, conscious creation requires clear context as well. And that's like so there's a discernment, there's a continuous journey of wanting to seek out the information, know what the environment is, to know what the right creation needs to be brought forward.
Discernment. Yeah, I like it.
Also, like, I know we talk about creation, but really, if we're talking about, this conscious creation in this universe, nothing is necessarily created. Everything is really transformed, mutated. Not mutated, it's transformed. It's with intent, but yeah, that's something to meditate on, maybe.
For sure. And I think you're right there. I mean, it's something I look at is being conscious in business. You mentioned that a minute ago. It's a challenging thing because there are so many unethical ways of doing business. And if you learn the wrong ones, suddenly you're acting unconsciously, but on the best advice.
Who says approach your business like an artist? No one.
But they should, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But you look at artists. I know. I'm thinking about it. You look at artists in the world today, and I'm like, what sort of stage of development they go to, and which stage they present themselves, and how they do that. And that's another. But that's a viable business they're running as well. So there's something we can learn there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's some amazing responses there, and I think everybody's very much in alignment. And for me, being a conscious creator is about starting to uncover your best self and living in the present, but looking to the future, but not just considering yourself. I think it's about selfless, general selflessness, open-mindedness, and having an open heart. And I think everybody's right. You need to be aligned with your own values and really discover yourself and intentional about your actions. And it's an evolving thing, I think, from my experience. So, Sil, did you want to add something?
Yes. Yes, we haven't heard from Bina and Brenda yet.
No, that's because Brenda had disappeared. Oh, and Bina's got her camera on now. So that's the problem. Whenever anyone's got their camera off, I can't see them. So that's very difficult for me. But Bina, would you like to share your experience? Sorry.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for sharing such a brilliant concepts about that, because especially Jen and Anna, of course everyone, but I'm just saying that because I just connect more with their perspective, and Anthony, because this is something I feel like that this is something I learned. Because still I always hear John, I always hear Cher, I always hear Matthew also, so it's like I'm just getting a bit biased here. Anyway. I learned today again from the very basic definition of the conscious creators and to the abstract one as you shared, Matthew, because consciously we all are default creators. We create all the time, so we are by default, we all are creators. When we choose to, or we make choice to create something, for me the core and the root of it is the focus and attention. When we pay attention, and the choices where we are putting and focusing on. So for me, again, coming back to the same thing as you say that, okay, in an abstract way, general sensibility ethics, morality, integrity, impeccability, of course, on top of that. These are the core which makes an abstract concept of conscious creator. In general, in a basic, very real-time definition of that, where we are making choices, where we are putting our attention and focus. This is what we create in our life. Again, the term create, I use it in an abstract way because for me, personally, I feel that we don't create anything. We just get aligned with those things which are already created in this universe. So for me, everything is created already. The universe in totality has been created. Everything is there. Whatever human mind can imagine is possible. It is existing in some dimension of time. So what we are doing is just we are getting aligned with. So for me, the very basic example is that if I want to manifest some specific person in my life, if I am going to create it, he is going to get birth now. And then it will take like, I don't know how many decades to get to. So he is there already. And I just want to be there in alignment with that thing where he is or she is, whatever. So this is something I feel that the universe in totality has been created and everything human mind can imagine is already existing. So we are not creating, we are just paying our focused attention to and getting aligned with the possibility where that thing or person or situation is existing.
Cool.
So this is what my understanding of conscious creation. And I assume, this is my personal understanding, no one, at least I can say that no one can be all the time consciously creating something. We get into the default creation. That's why we have some undesired situation in our life. So we are not always consciously creating everything. Sometimes we do get back to the default creation also. But whenever we get into that consciously creating something, then we get such an amazing results. So this is my understanding of conscious creation. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, nice perspective. I like it a lot. And yeah, very different from everyone else. But yeah, I love the ending there. Yeah, so whenever we get into conscious creation, we create something beautiful. I like it. And Brenda, are you here? Yeah, brilliant. So let's...
Hi. So I'm Brenda Johnston, energy healer and you can reach me at torontoshaman.com. So what does it mean to me to be a conscious creator? It means manifesting from your belief, your thoughts, your emotions, and we can manifest good or bad. So being unconscious, you could be putting out bad thoughts to the universe, rethinking old patterns and old beliefs and broadcasting that to the universe, and the universe is going to create what it is that you're focused on. So I believe they say we have 70,000 thoughts a day. So like Bina was just saying, if you can consciously try and focus more, that's going to, I think, make the world a better place instead of everybody being angry and upset and having negative emotions. So if you're a conscious creator, anything that you're creating is of value to you. It's what you believe in. And how can we cultivate a greater sense is connecting to your higher self or your spirit or your soul for finding out the best things for you. Trying to make sure that your choices don't hurt anyone, choices that you're creating. I'm not saying this very good. I only got 5 hours sleep. So just making sure that you're not hurting any animals or Mother Earth in your thought processes, and just to give back to the earth and to the universe more than what you take. And to do that, you need to be conscious and aware of what it is that you want and what it is you're saying, as long as you get enough sleep. The thing I believe in, it's from a Star Trek episode, an original Star Trek episode. I think it was called Shore Leave. And they go on this planet, think it's a great place. And this guy is afraid of a tiger, a Siberian tiger. It shows up, and another one thinks about somebody from the past, and they show up and beat him up. And then somebody thinks about a B-52 bomber. It comes along and starts shooting at them. And then they find out that this is a magical place that's made from very intelligent people, and it's their amusement park. And whatever you think of, you create instantaneously. They create it for you. And it can get you in a lot of trouble if you're not conscious about what you're creating. So I always think maybe that's what this is here. And we can manifest and create, and we just don't see it appear right in front of us so fast. So just be careful what you think of, be careful what you wish for. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it did, Brenda. I think you make a really good point there that it starts with thoughts. It's not actually about the physical creation itself, and the more positive we are with the thoughts, the better world we're going to create. And in some respects, as you understand these things, it's quite a logical process, really. John, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think that, for example, this morning, the word hormetics just popped into my head. I have no idea why, but this is how stress and pain strengthens us because of our responses to it. And so the word went down to a very deep level of my experience. And then this consciousness, most of which was nonverbal, kind of bubbled up to the surface and then went back down. So I think it's very much a matter of moving between the levels of consciousness and awareness. And intentionality is obviously important, but it might come in toward the end. So it was only after bouncing around this idea that I decided, I think I'll write about that. So I did anyway. So I think that we have this movement between, even beyond ourselves, into the universe and into the earth and into our own subconscious and so on, the collective subconscious, that's where the consciousness and the creativity happens.
Brilliant. Thank you, John. Yeah, I love that. And Sil, did you want to add to that?
I did. On that question that we originally asked, and the second part there, how can we cultivate a greater sense of awareness and intentionality in our lives? And for me, and it's core to what I do also, for me, the answer to that is, or the method, the practice is clarity of intent. Now, it's clarity of intent. So I take this concept of intentionality and how it's typically expressed as intention, I take it a little bit further. For me, I separate out intention and intent. And intention for me is with something that I wish to do, that I would like to do, that I hope to do. But an intent is when I've committed to doing it, whether I'm actually doing physical actions, or that's an energetic commitment, or it's a commitment of my integrity. But when I say I intend to do something, that means I am doing it, I'm going to do it, I will be doing it. And this is a very powerful act, I feel, from an energy point of view, in terms of, like Venus says, aligning with energy, or as we are mostly using here, of creating something, bringing it into reality, bringing it into awareness, bringing it into my life, which is also the same as aligning. So an intent is massively important. And our intents, as far as I see it, our intents shape our lives, very much like Brenda said in that Star Trek episode, except with, for me, there's one major difference. In that episode, they were able to do whatever they were thinking. It was purely on their own. It was separated out, individualized. But I see it as much like we're on the internet and we are in this grand collaboration. So yes, my little computer can make a difference to the internet, but it's got to now affect all the other computers at the same time. So when we look at this, that our conscious creation is also a collaboration, that we're all in it together, now it starts to make a bigger difference. So yes, my personal intent does come out and materialize and affect me personally, but it's also working in conjunction with all the other intents out there. But I want to just emphasize this point though. If we aren't clear about our intent, if we're just all over the show and random, we have this power and ability to have things happen in our lives. But if we aren't clear, we get things that we don't necessarily want. Or it depends on what our intent is. Again, what is your really, 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 really deep intent? Yes, is it to get money or is it to be aware? Which would you rather have? Well, when asked that way, it's like, well, if I'm aware, then I can get money. But if I get money and I'm unaware, I'm going to lose my money. See, so we have intents that we're not even aware of. And this is why clarity of intent is so key for this point of conscious creation, because it's conscious. If you don't know what your intents are, you may end up working against yourself. So we have to have clarity of intent. Absolutely critical.
Thank you. Yeah, really, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it is one of those things, is clarity around what you're trying to do and thinking it through a bit more than you probably maybe would have in the past, to ensure that you've thought all the different options through. I mean, I recently, just to talk about this, had a situation where I have unconsciously created a situation. So I've been consciously busy working and consciously busy trying to be a good parent, but a few things have come up where I've had opportunities to work instead of parent because my daughter's been out. And by allowing that to happen unconsciously, I now have a bit of a parenting issue. So now I have to consciously, but I'm aware of it, and that's the conscious part. I've become instantly aware of it, and I'm instantly aware of the cause. However, now I have to resolve it, and I have to set the intent to resolve it as best as possible. It was unconscious that happened. Anna, artist, can you talk? You keep freezing. Oh, yes.
Thanks, Matt. I was thinking about, so for me, I see everything we do, any endeavor, any job, any activity that we do as humans, I see us as craftsmen who use tools for something. So we as human beings are tools. So our mind is a tool, our body is a tool, and our emotions are tools also. So to use our minds, our bodies, and emotions as tools, we use them to craft something. And that something is what we bring into the world, how we are in the world, how we live. And so we have to take very good care of our tools, because if we don't take care of our tools, we can't use them. As an artist, for instance, if I don't clean my brushes after I use them, the paint is going to harden and I won't be able to use the brushes. It's that simple. Also, if you're using a tool and you're not paying attention to how you use your tool, you might even hurt yourself. You could cut yourself, you could nail your finger instead of the nail. So, everything in any endeavor, we have to be conscious of how we're using our tools. And another thought that popped into my mind is in physics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So whatever we make, whatever we intend, comes back to us in an equal opposite force. So this is where I think about understanding what your values are and how you use an impeccable way of being. Impeccability is a really important word, because what you intend comes from how you show up in the world, how you make your values manifest in the world. So it's all about intention, absolutely. It's all about intention. So when you're doing something, whether it's in business or in art making or in coaching or in gardening or in cooking or anything that you're doing, the more you are aligned with your values and your intention with those values, the clearer the creation is. And the more you take care of your tools, your body and your mind and your spirit, the more beautiful your creation becomes. I think that's all I have to say right now.
Brilliant. No, I love it. And I think it's really important how we do have to take care of our mind, our bodies, and our souls for our creations to be beautiful. It's not just 50-50 or all create or anything. It's all about the energy we put into it. Don, did you want to add something? You're muted, Don.
Here
Oh,
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, a few things to pick up on. So, yeah, I think was it? Yeah, John was talking about moving between levels, and I thought that's actually a brilliant way to realization that in the East there's like a realization of like 3 dimensions, like the realm of form, the realm of formlessness, and the realm of desire. That's an odd one, but we won't go into that. Okay, so, but what John's saying is like, yeah, we all have some presence as living beings. We have some presence on this formless realm, and that's where our pure conscious aspect is. And what we're doing in conscious creation is we're like taking this pure energy awareness and distilling it through this causal body, laying causes for it. We're not necessarily building it, we're kind of thinking it and then speaking it into existence. So yeah, I thought that was a great way to see like how our conscious creation system is sort of working. We were talking about commitment. Sil was talking about it takes commitment, and yeah, that was I think one interesting aspect of that is will. The strength of will to see something through, to complete something. What kind of experience does it take to develop the will to see something through? Because it's not just a physical strength, it's a conscious choice driven by an experience. So
yeah,
we can reflect a bit more about our experiences and how they've driven our commitments to do our thing, to consciously create. It's great conversation we're having.
It is an awesome conversation. And so, I mean, I'm going to let everybody talk, but I'm just going to throw another question in there for people to think about. So what are the key differences between conscious and unconscious creation? And how can we shift from one to the other? And I'll put this in the chat for everyone. Oh, so it's just gone to one person. And so I also wanted to mention that there is a question. So how do we go from perception to creation, which is basically along the same lines, I think. So how do we shift from unconscious to conscious? Because perceiving something is just the first stage. Embodying it for me is the other one. So Sander, you are next on the...
Yeah, and what I wanted to say also ties into the next question a little bit. And it all has to do with awareness. So when you're unconscious, you start creating things and they happen, but you're not aware that you created them. Similar thing is when you start creating something from a conscious place and you have your awareness and you need, for instance, then we get into that computer thingy again where Sil was talking about, is when you want to create something in your life and you need other people or you need input from others. When you set that intention out, others will come to you. If you have the awareness in that moment that someone connects with you or talks with you, they might be there to help you create what you want to create.
Good
Else,
point.
and if you're not aware of it, and you just go about your business and you set a certain intention and you feel that intention very powerfully, if you don't follow up on it, and and people come in your life, but you really do not act on what's coming to you, you basically are telling yourself and also the universe that you do not want it. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. And I think so one of the things that springs to mind is how certain traits can actually hold us back from being more conscious, like stubbornness and the desire to I can't think what the word is right now, but the desire to have it for ourselves. So like you said there, you set the intention to do something, and then the universe sends somebody your way who's actually there to help you, and you can either react in a protective way of like, oh no, mate, they're having the same idea as me, either they're going to steal my idea, or I'm going to do this by myself, or not see that sign that's actually happened there. Yeah, really good point. Sil, is he there? Sil? I think he's frozen. Jen Stover, you are next.
I was typing. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
He is here.
Oh,
sorry, Jen, you're next after Sil.
All right, sorry. So just a little bit of delay to switch me on. Sorry, Jen. Sorry, I was typing in and it made it slow. So I wanted to touch on a point. I want to address that second question also, but touch on a quick point here that's come up. We've been talking about conscious creation, and I can just hear some people saying, but I'm not an artist, so this isn't for me. And I really want to address that, to say no, that you are, even though you might not think of yourself. We are all artists, maybe not a visual artist or a music artist or a writing. No, not in the conventional sense, but you're an artist in the fact that you exist, and that you exist as an individual. Your individuality is your art. So when we talk about conscious creation, we are really talking about deliberately, consciously, right? That's the art, that's the creation. You bringing your moreness, your you-ness into the world. It doesn't have to be special, it just has to be you. And when it's you, it is special, it is art, it is beautiful. So I just wanted to make that distinction there, that this is not just for artists in the usual sense. We are all artists in the greater sense, right? We are life artists. And then on the point of how to bring this from the unconscious into the conscious. And for this, I would say this is absolutely key, once again, to pay attention to what we are doing moment to moment. I even recommend having a mantra that says, what am I doing? What am I doing? But it's what am I doing, capital D doing. What am I doing in my life? Not just what am I doing right now, I'm on a show, but what am I doing in the bigger context? In the bigger context, I'm practicing being aware. I'm practicing being deliberate. I'm practicing being impeccable. I'm practicing my learning and growing. I'm making every effort to know, to resolve, to figure out. These are all things that I'm doing, yes? So when you keep this in mind, what you are doing with a capital D, in the bigger context, right? And in the overall, in your life context, now you are going to start to connect your unconscious to your conscious. And then when you start to look at cause and effect, you start paying attention to, oh, I was thinking about this and look what's happening. So we develop this cohesive continuity in our lives, to not just be right now and only be aware of what's now, but how is now connected to what I was thinking, feeling, intending before, and what am I intending now, and how is it going to come later, right? Because intents do take some time. They work slowly because they've got to change the whole world to get what you want, so that takes some time. This is very important if you want to really pay attention how to bring what is unconscious into the conscious. Start paying attention to continuity, cohesiveness, cause and effect. Very powerful. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you, sir. Yes, Jen.
Let me put my little hand down.
Oh,
okay, so your question, and let me answer your question first. You said, how do we shift from unconscious to conscious? The two things I intentionally do or I've developed is, number one, in the moment, just the skill of interoception, like really being attuned to my body, because in any situation, if I'm really sensitive and can pick up things, the way our emotions are, they're neurochemical in nature and they send signals to our bodies. So if you can pick that up in the moment before it escalates, the really tiny, subtle, differences, then all of a sudden you've gone from an automatic behavior potentially to a more conscious or intentional behavior that comes from that. So that's a skill that I work on daily to try to really develop, is that body awareness. That's, you can call it a hack or a skill or whatever. The other thing that I think is really important is that you take personal inventory on a routine basis. And that is, when I say personal inventory, it's not just waiting for something to happen to tell you like, whoa, I need to check this out and do some personal work. But on a routine basis is like, for example, my husband and I, once a month, we sit down and we call it a full moon exercise, because we do it on the full moon of the month. And we check in with each other and we talk about like how are things going for us? Is there anything that you want to see more of that I'm doing well? Is there anything that you notice that I don't? And we give each other feedback, both, so that we can make adjustments and changes. So that kind of taking a personal inventory, maybe even with your relationship with the world. How am I doing? Am I acting of my core values lately? Am I behaving in ways that are unifying? Doing that on a regular basis, not waiting for something to check you and force you to do it, I think can help develop an ability to more quickly transition to a more conscious state. That's what I would say. And then the only thing I would comment that I got real excited about when Anna was talking off the subject is I 1000% support that these brains and bodies are tools, right? I mean, I do believe that I am both representative of an energetic collective, but I'm also an individual physical human with traits and experiences. And so this brain and body is both a receiver and a transmitter, but it better be dialed in, or else I'm not going to be able to do that in very unifying and growth-oriented ways, right? And so we often think about, keeping our brain and body, our bodies in good health, our heart, right? Muscle fitness, not too much fat on our bodies or whatever. But it's also critical to maintain your emotional health and your brain development strength, So, I mean, I don't forget about those pieces. We've only learned how to do that in the last 20 years or so. So it's something we are kind of currently catching up with when we talk about the health of this tool. So anyways, that's it. I don't want to take up too much time.
Brilliant. No, love that. Yeah, I mean, really crucial. Absolutely crucial. Really looking into ourselves, looking at ourselves, self-inquiry. Anna, artist.
I want to pick up on something that Dawn said. I want to bring back what you decided is for later, and that is the concept of desire. I think that is the most important and powerful energy in creation. When we are children, we are full of desire. Everything about what we do is fueled by desire. We're curious, we are experimenters, we ask questions about everything, we want to know everything. So we are actually natural creators. What's not in place is experience and agency. When we are young, we don't really have much agency. We have to follow what our parents tell us, what is expected of us. So that desire gets thwarted. Now, how do conscious, how do we move from unconscious creators to conscious creators? Children are unconscious creators. They just create whatever is happening. They use that energy and things happen. I think that the difference between being unconscious, a conscious creator, is that we clean up the soot from our energy so that okay, another concept is we are all artists. The difference between a non-artist and an artist is to understanding that we are conduits for something that happens naturally in the universe. The universe is always creating. We as humans have the ability to direct that creative energy any way we want. Because we are conduits, like Jen said, we are receivers and transmitters of this energy. However, we're kind of dirty. Our conduit is a little dirty from our experiences, from our traumas, from our doubts, all kinds of things, from not being very good to ourselves, not taking care of our tools, our bodies, minds. One of the tools that I learned to use that helps me clear that soot, that dirtiness in my energy, in my conduit, is meditation. Because meditation allows me to calm down my nervous system. It's good for my body because I give my body the chance to actually do what it is meant to do, which is to regenerate itself at every moment. And it also allows me to be in a space that is being and non-being. It's kind of in between, where I am open to receiving that creative energy that's pervasive in all of the universe. Of course, this is my belief. I cannot prove it scientifically, but this is how I see the whole process. I know you can, but I just don't have the knowledge to do it. I just know it happens. I know it works. So that's how you move from being an unconscious to a conscious creator, is to clear your receiver and your transmitter by dealing with your own past, by becoming present, by taking care of your tools, and by having a clear intention that is, I think, I'm going to say it. If your intention is not for the good of everything and everybody, that's dirty intention. So create that thing in your heart that is for serving, not for acquiring. Does that make sense? I don't want to say anything else because I'm getting a little crazy in my head. There's too many things in my head.
That was awesome.
That's
really great ending. I think, yeah, I love what you said there. Like an intention that isn't to the greater good is a dirty intention. I think, yeah, we are one organism, one being here, as well as multiple organisms and beings. And so, yeah, I think that is a really good point to make. Brenda.
Hi. So the key difference between conscious and unconscious creation for me is what everybody else has been saying: intention and unintentional. And one of the things I want to do more of, Lynn McTaggart, she was from The Secret, and she has a power of 8 intentions, where they put out an intention to yourself, or you put it out to a group of 8 or 20 people, or for a whole country, or for the world. And it's putting conscious intention out there to create a better world. And how we can shift, I think, is being aware that we have this power to manifest and create, and a thoughtfulness of doing good. Like Anna was saying, if it's not good for everyone, then why do it? So just a thoughtfulness, an inner an inner feeling that your higher self, you want to do good in the world. And we can destroy the world with negativity, or we can create a better, more beautiful world. And I think part of it is gratitude and forgiveness and the idea of do no harm. And I think with self-hypnosis, I learned recently, it's similar to meditation as well, set an intention or a mantra or an incantation. And the way I was taught to do it is you do this when you wake up in the morning, when you go to sleep, when you're more at your unconscious self, when you're more in a theta way. And also you could do it just several times a day and just bring that intention to yourself so that you can stay on track. And something that Anna was saying about the dirty conduit, I see the place as we're in the soup of life. So we're in this big pot of soup and we're all in here together. Do you want to put more shit in the soup, or do you want to actually clean out some of the soup? So by doing healings on yourself and having good thoughts and positivities, you're cleaning out the soup for the whole world. You're stepping up. You're being like an indescribably wonderful person and saying, okay, I'm going to take my stuff and I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to take anybody else around me that's having the same sort of stuff, temper tantrums of 5-year-old of something that triggers them. If you do a healing on yourself, you actually heal your family. So you can sit there and do a meditation and an incantation on yourself, or even go further and do shamanic healing, energy healing, Reiki healing, and you heal yourself. You heal your parents and your grandparents, and you heal your children and your grandchildren, your brothers and your sisters, because it's all generational. We all have the same DNA. So you're healing generational trauma, and then you're healing like somebody living in your house is not related to you, that they might get it and other people might get it. And then we believe with my shaman and his belief that he's taught us, anybody who's out there praying for something and it's you're praying for it too, you want it. You want to stop doing something or to do something, and you're wanting it. Somebody else is like, please let me have that. Your healing is actually going to help them too, because like I say, we're all in the soup. So that's what I want to do.
Thank you, Brenda. Awesome. And Gabe.
Yes, I've been paying attention, and excuse me for my delay, if anything. Everything that I'm hearing is just wonderful, right? Because we all do the same thing, a little bit different. So my perspective comes from an engineering background in computer sciences, and I'm gonna expand on Jen's broadcasting statement. So as human beings, we have energy. We are 100% energetic beings, and because we are, our brain literally broadcasts that energy out to the field, to the universe. It's just proven neuroscience, right? So because we broadcast it out, we're sending out that intention on a frequency. And our heart, which is magnetic, draws back that experience to us. So this is the mind-body control, right? So think of it as you are a radio station and you are on the FM dial 88.3, and that's your current conscious reality. That's what you're living on. That's your channel. But you want to go to 101.5 because that's what your success is in life. That's what your desires are, your dreams, everything that you aspire for with great intention is on a different channel. To be able to jump from 88.3 to 101.5 or whatever channel they said, it's not just the clear intention, okay? The feeling, the emotional energy behind it has to be a vibrational match to that clear intention, that thought energy. If it's not vibrating at the same level, there's going to be lack there. You can desire whatever you want consciously, and you're never going to manifest that, create that, because the body is in lack, is thinking in the opposite direction. So to be able to be a conscious creator, and be able to do it effectively, we got to be able to declutter, unbecome, unlearn, and commit to catching ourselves in the act of self-sabotage on a daily basis. Okay, it's easy to create. All it takes is a clear intention and an elevated emotion. I love what I'm doing. I'm excited what I'm doing, as if, and those are two key words, as this is happening right now. You got to walk in those shoes, and that's your reality, you know. But we have to unlearn self-sabotage, falling into old patterns, you know, going into battle with yourself, fighting with people around you. You know, we got to become conscious of our habits that don't serve us well. We have to be conscious of how we think and feel about our health, wealth, and wisdom. We have to be aware about just about everything. We got to be mindful about our potential, about our opportunities. We have to take charge and declutter all of that. And now you're going to start to create. Because when you make room for all of that new goodies in your life, you got to get excited about it. You got to be able to say, you know, I really want this that bad. That's an incantation. Paul and Brenda will probably agree with that. You know, you have to be able to invoke an amplitude, an energetic amplitude that is greater than how we currently feel on that frequency. And we got to bring it up to be able to create this reality that we don't believe in yet. We don't believe in it because we haven't practiced that. Unconsciously, what we have practiced is the life that we live today, with the exception of the people on this panel and those who actually practice it on a daily basis, any kind of healing modalities. So the difference between unconscious is that the first 7 years of our lives, we are unconscious. We are taking it all in. We hit the record button and we are being programmed for everything that we are today. If you come across an adult who says they don't know who they are, tell them, think about your first 7 years of your life. That's who you are today, because 90% of what we learn unconsciously is what we practice today as adults consciously. So this is difficult to unlearn. This is a process. When we say it's a journey, it's a process, you know? And how do we shift that is exactly that way. We have to practice mindfulness that becomes awareness, that becomes consciousness at our current 3D reality. And once we understand that, we can make a shift by simply committing. Commitment, practice, which I keep hearing today. Getting excited, motivated, you know, it's all about sustaining that impeccable word. And I love that Syl says that a lot, because just like the 4 agreements, Don Luis Ruiz, I think his name is, who said, you know, you have to speak from a point of impeccability. That's about you. It's not about anybody else. So be impeccable about your intention, be impeccable about your elevated emotions, so that you can create that reality consciously, not unconsciously. Once you do, it will become part of that new program in your life that you can scale back. My name again is Gabe, and I forgot to say I am an NLP EFT practitioner, and I just love the neurosciences. It's about the feelings, the vibrations. Energy, frequency, and vibrations is what creates your reality every day. You change the way you think and feel and act, you create that new reality, but you gotta want it that bad. You gotta want it more than the oxygen that you breathe. You can't have it any other way, and you can't bring the old version of you into the new version 2.0. That never works. That's self-sabotaging. If you're going to put on a new pair of shoes, you got to put on the new socks, the new pants, the new drawers. Everything's got to be brand new, moving forward, and create that, because you can, just because you can. And can means you start to believe. Now you're creating a root, a paradigm that sustains that belief so strongly that whatever you're going to manifest or create consciously, it's going to happen regardless. Just do it, because we can. And we teach you how to do that too. We give you the how to. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Yeah, some really, really good points. I love the mindfulness to awareness to consciousness. I think that is a good explanation of the process. Paul.
You know, I love the magic of words. We talk about this word intention, right? So the difference between unconscious and conscious creation, right? So we talk about intention. But what about when we have particular ideas, dreams, thoughts that create that inner world of turmoil, what we actually do is create an outer tension, right? That means that in our outer world, there is tension, there's stress, there's worry. That's the unconscious creation. When we consciously create, everyone keeps saying this word, intention, intention, intentionality. Actually, the word to me, intention, is actually two words. It's inattention. And I liken this, oh, I just dropped my symbol. I liken this to the bow. You can see this. When you notch an arrow into a bow and you pull the string, you create tension, you create inattention in your muscles. And when you release the arrow, when you release the string, the arrow flies forward. So when we want to create consciously, what we're doing is, like for me, especially as a magician, as a practitioner of magic, I'm drawing energy from the natural world. I'm drawing energy up from Mother Earth. I'm drawing energy down from Father Sky. I'm bringing it into my body. I'm bringing all of that tension inwardly. And in a moment, a conscious moment, I release that, like you release the arrow from the bow. So the difference between unconscious and conscious creation is a difference between outer and inattention. If you want to create consciously, you want to bring inattention, which means you want to bring that energy into you and then release it. That's the difference between unconscious and conscious creation for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Awesome. Great analogy, great story there. Cher.
I'm on this little tiny screen on my phone, so it's hard to find the little volume button.
No problem. I know the feeling.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. All right, to answer this, I've been sitting here really excited listening to everybody talk. And something kept going through my mind, which is choice. Every single one of us here have a choice as how we're going to consciously create. And even if we think we don't have a choice, we do. We can choose to agree, to disagree. For me, something I don't really do much with this group, but I'll give you a little bit of backstory on me. Before I moved here to Texas, I ran a business in Nebraska, and that business was tailoring. I was so deeply proud of that business. Well, it went under, of course, because of COVID. People don't really want to come in and have their garments fitted when we have this massive nastiness going on. So I lost my business and I lost my house. I was put in a position where I had to completely recreate. I had to create a new life. Now, it didn't dawn on me until this conversation today that, yeah, that really is full head on conscious creation. I deliberately made the decision to move, to sell my business, to sell my house, to come to a foreign place, to me anyways, and to make a difference by making a choice. Everything I've done every single day since then is choice. Choice to be aware, choice to be aware of my language, choice to be aware of my location, my movements, what I write, who I meet, who I connect with. Now, I may not be a painting artist. I may not be any of those other artists, but what I do have is I have some mad creative skills. This is how I'm taking it. To be able to create a life for me and for my grandson, to rebuild. And I threw it all out, and now I'm kind of pulling back in some of the things that I want, some of the things that I need, including some of my sewing. I'm thinking about getting back into some of the sewing and the tailoring that I used to do and love. I've not always been, into social work, into trauma recovery, into human services. That was what I went to college for. What life handed me, though, was the ability to have mad skills with fiber arts. So I feel like there's something I need to do with that. And it just keeps coming back to me over and over and over again. I took for granted all of those skills until the word choice kept popping up today. So I guess I just want to wrap it up with this, that I'm looking at right now, for me, myself, or for anybody else, by not making any deliberate choices, by not making any moves to do something with the gifts and the skills that I have been blessed with, I'm intentionally leaving a hole in the fabric of the universe. I'm leaving it damaged. By making the choice to do something about it, no matter what that something is, by taking one step forward, I'm taking steps towards mending that tear in the fabric and making things, putting things right. And to me, I see it as it takes each one of us to add that little piece back in to put it all back together. The end.
Thank you, Cher. And I love the end. What a beautiful ending as well. Sil.
I'm coming. It's just a delay. Just a delay. I want to just elaborate on something that Ramsey put in there. He put in, the science backing here equals MC squared. But let's turn that a little bit. Let's just rearrange those elements, right? And I'll put it into chat there. If you take E equals MC squared and you rearrange it, you get M is equal to E divided by C squared. This, to me, is the more powerful version of that equation. This is an incredible statement. In other words, matter, material, mass, hard stuff, touchable stuff, is energy divided by C squared. Now, in all of science, I've never ever seen anybody address what that divide actually means. When you take energy and you divide it by C squared. C squared is just a really huge number. It's not infinity or something, it's just a big number, right? So if you take energy and you divide it, what does that divide mean? To me, it means slowing it down, right? So we take the raw energy of the universe and we slow it down tremendously and we get matter. And now we can start to understand how it is we bring things into reality, how we connect things, how we align with things, right? And this is just, I just wanted to put that out there. It's a very powerful understanding. But two other key points for me in this whole discussion about this unconscious, conscious, and being deliberate, consciously for me is deliberate, consciously creating. We can look at our habits. I already said pay attention. For me, I pay attention to cause and effect. But when I start to want to look at where I'm like, yeah, but I do stuff that I didn't even realize I was doing it. I was doing it unconsciously. Pay attention to your habits. Because what is a habit other than a little program which is geared and designed to having us do things in unawareness? This is what a habit is. It's deliberate unawareness, right? So when we start to pay attention to our habits, now we can start to pay attention to what we do unconsciously. And one really cool way to do that is to start to take your routines in life, like how you stir your coffee, right? Or whatever, how you put your belt on, how you comb your hair, whatever, and start to pay attention to those, not for the intent of changing them. Yes, set the intent to change it, but this is not the point of the exercise. The point of the exercise is to associate it with becoming aware. So we have all these little routines throughout our day. We've got tons of them. If we start deliberately paying attention to changing them and associating that with being aware, in that moment where you now stir your coffee the other way around, turn your spoon backwards, whatever, in that moment you say, what am I doing? But what am I doing in terms of my intent? Yes. What am I behaving on? What am I feeling? What is my going on inside me? Now you start to become aware of those unconscious things. It's a very, very, very powerful technique. And then you can start to act on it, which is my third point. Yes. So for me, the difference between intention and intent, I can have an intention to, like I have the intention of, world peace. What do I do about it? Well, not much. So that doesn't mean all that much because I'm not acting on it. So in order to make our intentions matter, we have to act on them. So in this understanding, that's just for me the difference now between intention and intent. And to this unconsciousness, if I look what I'm doing, what I'm acting on, I start to get an idea of what my underlying intents are. And through that, I can start to say, what am I unconsciously acting on and that I'm not aware of through my habits, and what am I consciously acting on? And now I can make that shift to conscious creation by unhooking from those unconscious habits, right? And shifting from intention to intent. Very, very
Thank you, Sil. Really good. Really very key point. I mean, habitual behavior is one of those traps, definitely. Don, no, Jennifer, sorry. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. So one thing that I wanted to say about unconscious creation is that that's happening all the time, whether we want it to or not. You know, so I love when people say, "Oh, I'm not very creative." I'm like, you're constantly creating something. You know, you're creating a breath, you're creating a sound when you speak. We're constantly creating things. So I look at unconscious creation as like an autopilot state kind of that's going on, but it does heavily influence our conscious choices and our decisions and stuff like that. That's the information like in our resources that we kind of dip into. And Freud would refer to them as pre-conscious thoughts, which are subconscious thoughts that we can mindfully become aware of, and they can become conscious. So I think that I also really wanted to touch on what Paul said. I loved what that analogy with the arrow and how conscious creation and unconscious creation is about inner tension versus outer tension, because whatever we're feeling subconsciously, whether we're aware of it or not, it is affecting our conscious behavior. And for every action, there's a reaction. So the stuff that we do, other people react off of, and that's how unconscious creation can happen. And it's not always a bad thing. It depends on what's going on in your subconscious, doesn't it? Because if a person's really settled and really at peace within themselves, they're probably unconsciously creating wonderful situations left and right without even trying to. And that's beautiful. It's when a person starts to notice a pattern of negativity going on in their life, or something that needs to be changed, that we have to consciously become mindful of what role did we play in it going wrong in the first place, and what can we mindfully and intentionally do to change it. So for me, it's from shifting from one to the other, it's about questions. It's about questioning ourselves about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what we need to do next to create a brighter future for ourselves. And that's all I got, short and sweet.
Thank you, Jennifer. Don. Nice one. Yep.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, I want to pick up on a couple of things. A couple of you have said. Brenda was saying, we're talking about do no harm, and that is really big actually, because sometimes you can't see the whole picture. But so what do you do if you can't see the whole picture? Well, the basic rule is, yeah, to do no harm, and that way, you know, you're being conscious and aware of other living beings, other sentients, and their opportunity to learn and grow as well. But yeah, if we start creating harmful circumstances, then yeah, we're not engaging in a not engaging in a way that's going to really benefit anybody. And so Jennifer was saying, like, this autopilot state, it's a fascinating idea, because some would say that, yeah, there's, you know, we can operate on the conscious level, but there's also a necessity for us to be operating on this sort of autopilot state, because this is more of like a natural flow of activity. And it's quite unusual, because we might assume like conscious all the time, but actually not being so mentally conscious, but going in our flow, but being heart-centered, you know, then that is another way to be conscious and not necessarily in the mind so much. So yeah, what I wanted to bring in, though, it's like on my bit, was the idea of rights and being righteous. Because I mean, what's our question? Our question is
conscious and unconscious. And
yeah, conscious. How do you make, what are the key differences? And like, how do we make the shift from one to the other? Well, if we're unconscious, we're creating harm. And technically, that leads us to being not righteous. Like, you can look this up in a dictionary. Being righteous is to act in a way that does not cause harm. So if you want to make that transition from being, I don't like unconscious, but say spending less time in the subconscious state and more in the conscious state, then considering, where you're creating harm and, not creating harm anymore.
Mm.
We were talking about desire. Desire is a funny thing. It's a funny dimension because it speaks to the body of us that is in transition. It's not like necessarily focused on like a mental or a value or aspiration or creation. It's not interested in like a physical creation or manifestation. It's trying to meet a desire of the being. Now that could, if you spend too much time in that state, then yeah, you're not necessarily existing. Because it's only when you're also like present in the formless realm and in the realm of form that you are able to be creating. So less time you spend in the realm of desire, the more you are spending in creation. Yeah.
Thank you. John.
Over to
Jen, you're next on my screen. I think Jen Stover. Sorry, yeah.
Let me hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Let me comment on that last piece too, because I need to leave, but I wanted to kind of cover a couple obstacles that are common to becoming conscious or that prevent people before I leave, and what I feel you can do about it. That when the comment that your unconscious state your unconscious state is harmful, it can be when it's hasn't been dealt with. However, we can consciously recreate our default. So what part of the obstacle, one of the obstacles is people think that they're stuck with their unconscious behaviors, unconscious thought patterns, and that's not factual. You can actually consciously, over repetition and time, introduce new thought patterns and emotional thresholds, and that can become your new default. So there are things that I used to 5 or 6 years ago had to consciously do that are now automatic and have become my default. I still have some garbage to clear out too, but there's more often my default. I can now operate more unconsciously, and it will be in a more unifying and helpful way. So all I'm saying is you can change that. You can actually, through repetition and over time, you can create new neural pathways that over time get adopted by our body and become unconscious and run more energy efficiently. So that can be done. The other two things I want to comment on, I think it was Sil said beautifully, slowing down is something that people don't understand the magnitude of. Our brains are constantly during the day, like in that high speed beta, right? Just ticking across. And one thing people, it's a fun fact to know about your brain is that certain areas of your brain thrive at different speeds. Right. So creativity, is in that kind of side of your brain thrives at, theta, and intellect thrives at beta. But in between, alpha speed, I love alpha because you can access your intellect and your emotional creative side at the same time. It's like kind of this area, but you need to be able to slow down just to get there. I mean, it may not be practical on your work day to go all the way to theta state and then come back up. I mean, it's very beneficial, but even if you can slow down a notch and get into that state where you can access both your intellect and your creativity for a moment, just that little bit of slowing down is extremely powerful. And the last thing I wanted to comment on is the other block, I think, is for people, they have an aversion to discomfort. We are wired for pleasure because pleasure is energy efficient for our brains. It aligns. So any kind of growth or change, and if you're changing something about your beliefs or your emotional threshold, it's going to be naturally, initially uncomfortable. You're not going to die. it's just going to be initially uncomfortable. So one of the barriers, I would say obstacles, can be our resistance to being okay with being uncomfortable sometimes. So my last comments, or I would say, is to slow down and get comfortable being a little uncomfortable sometimes. You're not going to die. It'll be okay. And eventually things get adopted and become more automatic and relaxed. So that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think too many of us think that we are our beliefs, our thoughts, our emotions, and even our stories and our habits as well, when really that's not what we are. They're just experiences we've had, and they're things that are happening for us, and we can change our thoughts, our emotions, and our beliefs. And yeah, I'd like to add, though you do have to go through a bit of discomfort, there's a very big bit of comfort at the end, and a new level of comfort that I didn't even know exists, and I was looking in other places. So yeah, don't think it's uncomfortable for life. It's not. Anna.
Yeah, speaking about being uncomfortable, for me, when you are an unconscious creator, you are suffering. You know, the uncomfortable part of being human is that it is painful to be human, because we are forced to be in a material world when we're really spiritual people, spiritual beings. And the suffering comes from unmet desire. And what is that desire? Desire is a vibration. It's actually a need for connection. When we have a strong desire, we have this need to connect to something that's bigger than we are. And for me, from my understanding, it's a desire to connect to a frequency that is pervasive in everything and everywhere. What are we desiring for? What are our major desires? From my understanding, from my experience, we desire freedom of choice, and we desire beauty. I think it was Terence McKenna that I heard a really interesting lecture that he did about the relativity of most things. For instance, reality is relative. My reality is different from your reality and from anybody else's reality. Truth is also relative. My truth might not be the same as yours. But he came to the conclusion that the one thing that we can agree on is the concept of beauty. I know beauty is also relative. It's in the eyes of the beholder. But there is a kind of beauty that has to do with the concept of grace. And in that, there is love. I really, truly believe that the universe is made out of love. And when we desire that love. So when we want to create something,
Ooh. Just give her a second. I think her internet's dropped.
Wait, we were such a good point.
Yeah, I know. On the suspense.
We're on the edge of our seats, Anna.
On the edge of our seats. She's gone. Okay, she left us there. So, Bina,
It's a secret. It's a secret that the universe is now hiding from
yeah,
us.
we weren't allowed to tell.
Can anyone finish the story? Oh.
Bina, do you want to continue and then hope? Oh, Anna's back. No, can't tell. Bina, we'll have to wait until her comes back.
This is so unfortunate, Anna. I was so keen to hear you more. Okay. One thing what Jen was mentioning about being comfortable, and this is our natural state. Yes, because it makes sense that in a mother's womb, we all are just comfortable sitting there, getting fed by mother. So everything is so comfortable, effortless. We want to be there. That is the state. That is the ultimate desire. And being conscious is, as Anna was saying, that I would not say into that. So of course we have to be when you are being consciously creating something, you have to pay attention, you have to pay some effort. This is and another question Ramsey actually asked in the chat, and he was saying that, Veena, what do you think about it? That God has created the wood, but not the table. So yes, exactly as you were saying that, Ramsey, that God, our universe, has created that wood. It is my choice what I want in my life. That wood can be a table or a chair or anything in my life. I can burn it, I can use it to just walk around and make an arrow or whatever I want to. It is my deliberate choice. So this is how, for me, this whole thing works. Some of my friends call me the queen of manifestation. I'm not against it. It sounds like that, okay, I'm a bit offended with that. No, exactly not. It is actually opposite of it, because I have manifested so many amazing things in my life. Right now, where I'm sitting, right now, with you I'm actually communicating with, everything is a deliberate choice. Everything I have manifested. And people were aware that this is what I'm going to manifest in my life in future. So it is not like a random thing. The other thing was Jen was referring to about the habit and the autopilot, which is actually habit. Habits are actually our energy efficient mechanism human mind actually create, because it's less energy consuming. Once we develop this habit, we can just go into autopilot and things are just happening. The energy, again, the mental energy. Physically, we are still consuming the same amount of energy. But what we naturally strive to save the energy, the mental focus, attention. This is what naturally we want to save all the time. That's why this unconsciously creating all the time we get into, I would choose to call it default creating, because this unconscious creating is a bit not so clear for me. So that's why I would say, okay, I said default creating. So the default creating is less energy consuming. That's why we develop habits. Habits are not really a bad thing. Like Jen was saying that, okay, at some point by the practice, by completely repeating the things, we develop that. And we can do that for deliberate choices also. But it has to be my choice, because when we make a choice, it is conditional. That right now I'm making this choice in this moment. This is how right now appropriate for me. This is what is valuable for me right now. It will change, like all our beliefs, everything. So it has to be conditional. And that is the point where we actually get the value of deliberately creating, consciously creating something. That it is my choice and I'm creating right now in this moment. I can change, I can adapt, I can move on, I can completely go into a completely different direction and try to manifest something completely opposite of it. It has to be my choice. So this is what I got the conclusion from all of your conversation. Thank you so much, Matt, for bringing such an amazing show. And thank you so much, everyone.
And Anna's back. So thank you, Veena, and what a great thing. Right, so Jennifer, you're next.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback off something Jen said earlier when she was discussing the different brainwaves and how we are more in touch with our creative side when we have slower brainwaves. So in hypnotherapy, an alpha brainwave pattern is all that needs to be induced to increase a person's level of suggestibility and also to merge the conscious and the unconscious thought with each other, right? But another thing that's very interesting about that alpha brainwave state is that there's something that goes off in all of us every 90 to 120 minutes. It's called our ultradian rhythm. And that is the moment in time where you'll notice you'll periodically just kind of space out throughout the day. Like you were doing something, you were thinking about something, and then you're gone. You're off with the fairies, right? So when that happens, that is our brain taking in and processing everything that we've just been exposed to, and it is integrating itself with our system and becoming part of that baseline that we will just subconsciously like our autopilot state, what we're naturally inclined to do without using too much energy, right? But something Brenda brought up earlier that I wanted to tie in with this is that the first and last moments of being awake, we are the most suggestible that we can possibly be. If you're really looking to change your mind, and this is coming from a hypnotist, those are the two best times to capitalize off of. And when I'm working with a client, sometimes what I will do is, and this is something new that I just started doing in my practice, is that I will do one session with them. I used to say, oh, get a package, nothing's fixed in a day. But now I say don't, because some things can be fixed in a day. I will do one session with the person. It's very exploratory. I'll just try to get as much information about them as I can, try to sort out what needs to be changed, work on whatever can be changed conversationally, and then come up with the perfect words for them to hear during their naturally occurring theta brainwave times, first thing in the morning and at the end of the night. And then make them a recording and say, listen to this every day during those two times. But the words will be words that are what that person needs to hear based on what I heard from their problem. And throughout the practice of, and I will hypnotize them before I get off the appointment with them to just make them more open and receptive, because I can get someone into a theta brainwave state through hypnosis. And when they're in that state, the slower your brainwaves are, the more unconscious or subconscious thought you're dealing with, and the faster they are, the more conscious thought you're dealing with. So slowing things down is very, very important. And the mind can be changed quickly by utilizing those two times of the day, because there is no hypnotist out there that can get you into a more suggestible state than you will wake up in naturally every day and pass through as you fall asleep. And while you're sleeping as well, because unconscious creation, the subconscious doesn't sleep. So unconscious creation is going on even as we sleep. We're changing, we're absorbing, the baseline is, the new stuff is getting in. Don't fall asleep with crazy gunfights on the TV and turn that off. Don't let your subconscious mind hear that, because it does stay awake and it takes all of that in, and that becomes part of how we unconsciously create things that we might not enjoy when we're awake. That's it.
Yeah, and I think actually just brought forward a point. I think like what we consume has a big part to do with how conscious we are of what's going on around us and how seriously you take things. Just quickly, I wanted to know, Anna, do you remember what you were about to say that we were all hanging on the edge of our seats for?
I will try. I think what I was leading towards is that, our desire for grace and for love is really important. And it's important to listen to our desires. There's an old saying, be careful what you wish for. I do not like that saying. I made a different one for myself, and that is, be prepared for what you wish for. Because if you're living your life from your pure desire, then whatever you create and it comes to you, then be prepared for it. Just accept it and be in it, because everything that you create, you need. It's meant to be. Just make sure that you're creating it from a conscious, intentional, from a place of love. And life is amazing. You will receive, you will manifest anything in your life. And it is an amazing and beautiful journey, and it's a roller coaster. And like Thomas said, the journalist, he said, buy the ticket, take the ride. Life is a ride, and it's a beautiful ride. And just listen to yourself, listen to your desire, to your heart, calm yourself down, be in that beautiful state that Jennifer just describing, and it will come to you. And yeah, that's
Awesome.
what it means. A conscious creator sometimes is someone who taps very much into the unconscious and receives what it brings and manifests it beautifully with the heart.
Love it. Thank you. Yeah, I think the unconscious and the unknown as well. We tap into the unknown and investigate the new. Sil.
Yes, on this unconscious to conscious or subconscious to conscious. To me, this is all about being conscious, is about being deliberate. And one of the things that I feel that makes the most difference in our beingness, in our consciousness, in our deliberateness, and in our creativity and in bringing things into our lives, not just creativity in an artistic sense, but creativity in the fuller sense of living, is our power and this ability that we have, which is a power to conceive. Yes. Now, I'm not saying conceive or conception as a fancy way of saying a word. No, there's a massive difference between a word and a conception, right? A word is, okay, chair, that's a word. But a conception, when I conceive of something, this means I am putting something into it. I'm making it happen, but it's a function of me, that conception. Yes, like when you conceive a child, this is some of me that's going in there. Yes, and hopefully we would like to conceive our children deliberately to say, well, I'm hoping the best of me goes in there. We might not be able to do it with our children, but we can certainly do it with our actions and with our creations. All of our creations, which is how we interact, how we communicate, how we share, what we're doing in every single action. If we have a set of conceptions, like, of course, my core conception, impeccability, if we have this conception in our lives, which is making a difference, and we connected to this conception, I am now bringing it into reality, right? Because it's a conception. The conception are incredibly powerful, and they're a way to move from that unconscious to the conscious. And when we look at the other part of all of this, is to go from unconscious to conscious. It is acting, right? Which is practice to me. And, capital P, practice, is for me one aspect. There's a lot to it. It's a big power conception for me. But capital P, practice, for me is deliberately doing that which is uncomfortable or that I'm not good at. You take your ma. He still practices every single day for I don't know how many hours. He says he loves it. Why? Because he's always learning. But he's deliberately going and doing that which he is not fully comfortable with, that is not really accomplished that yet, right? So he's deliberately engaging in uncomfortable action. So when the more you get comfortable with doing the uncomfortable, the more you get comfortable, in other words, with capital P practice, the more you can quicken that process where initially it starts, it's all uncomfortable, and then, oh, okay, well, this is easy enough, and then you get comfortable. So this is a very, very key part of doing all of this, bringing it into reality, is this ability to capital P practice, which is to be deliberately uncomfortable. And when we add that to conceptionality, now we get a very, very powerful thing. Then when you tie it all together with habits and how to break habits, I've got a whole list of conceptions here, but I'm just going to post them in chat there, right? There are many techniques and skills that we can apply, like overbending, for instance, and there's a bunch of other ones that we can use to change our habits. It's an incredibly powerful business, all of this that we can do when we start to live deliberately, which is to be conscious in my book. Yes?
Yeah, brilliant. I recommend overbending to anyone. It's the thing that's got me very far in life. Sander.
Yeah, my remark ties beautifully in with what Sil said. And it's basically going back to the first question, and the second part of the first question is how can we cultivate a greater sense of awareness and intentionality, is when you do chores around the house, for instance, you do the dishes, do them intentionally, be fully present in the moment while doing the dishes or folding the laundry or combing your hair, but be aware of, and even if you smoke a cigarette, be fully aware of when you smoke the cigarette, you do it fully consciously, how it feels when you do that, or drink the coffee, or maybe you have other bad habits. And when you do them consciously, become aware of what's happening to you or what's happening in that moment. So you create an awareness of just the simple things you normally do automatically.
Nice one, yeah.
And it's really simple to do, to create more awareness, and also create more intention, because you already do those things, but now you do them with full attention, with you being fully present in that moment.
Great. Yeah, great point. Really great point as to how easy it is to become aware of the things that you're doing. Yeah, thank you. Jennifer.
You know, there's so much good stuff to comment on. I forgot the primary reason why I raised my hand initially earlier, and it just came to me. So it was something that I wanted to real quick teach everyone that they could do for themselves in order to induce an alpha brainwave state quickly. So say you need to calm down, or you need to be able to have the ability to think about an issue rationally, and you want to naturally slow your brain waves down. All you have to do is look all the way up, keep your head level, and roll your eyes up. I start off all my hypnotic inductions this way. I tell everyone to close their eyes, and with their eyelids closed, roll your eyes up like you're trying to look at your eyebrows with your eyelids closed, and hold them like that for the duration of 3 long, deep and cleansing breaths that you can take right now. Yeah, that's how it always starts every single time. And the out breath should be longer than the in breath, because when the out breath extends the length of the in breath, we stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's our rest and restore mode. And that's going to make you feel a lot better than you did a minute ago. And it doesn't take very long to do. Just head level, eyes up, eyes closed, and 3 long, deep breaths, and you're better. Everything's better after that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Great technique. And I use that breathing technique all the time during the daytime when
good,
I'm
isn't
working
it?
in between things. Yeah, very good. Yeah, especially going from one thing to another almost clears the way. Anna.
I wanted to comment on what was talked about, a practice. Practice is a really, really important part of creation. And I distinguish practice from discipline because from my experience and perspective, discipline implies there's judgment in it. There's an unforgiving of error. Whereas in practice is about making mistakes over and over again. Why do we do that? Why do we need to practice, and why do we make mistakes? From my experience, that's where the uncomfortable feeling is. The uncomfortable place is when is because our minds and our bodies are dense. They're dense and they're prone to habit. Habit is a kind of addiction, right? So you get into this habit, into this rut, and you get stuck in inertia. But if you keep practicing something, so you practice breath, you practice meditation, you practice drawing, you practice painting, you practice walking, you practice singing, you practice working with numbers, you practice business practices. When you do that, what's happening is you are creating new habits. You are training your body and your mind to have new habits. And then you have to keep practicing because you don't want to stay in that habit. The creation happens when you get out of the habit and you create new habits. So practice is really, really important. Practice being a creator. It's a moving kind of experience. It's not, you never arrive there. You're always showing up. You're always practicing. And that's what creators do. Creators are always curious. They're always wanting to learn more and more and more. That's all I had to say.
Love it. Yeah, very curious. And right, Brenda, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to add that if we're wounded, we react to other people's triggers and are defensive. And if we wanted to heal that, we could use what I use in ceremonies is calming music, a smudge, my picture here about getting back to nature. If you can't go on a nature walk, I have a little thing of stones in behind me. You can't see it there, but it's a little collection on a tray of stones. And I was in a course with somebody and she said, get back to nature. And I thought, my stones. And so I put the tray under my table here, and I had my bare feet on the stones as if I was walking in the woods. So I'm on the 4th floor of an apartment and I can help myself get more grounded. And some of the things would be yoga and qigong and tai chi. And what Anna was saying, yes, you have to do it for 21 days to get into changing a habit. And exactly what Jennifer said was lovely. I learned some of that, the getting into the theta state at the beginning of the day. And I just want to say that getting enough sleep is also very important, because your physical and a mental and emotional state is going to be chaotic if you're not getting enough sleep. And a lot of people don't get enough sleep. And also maybe writing down what your goals and desires are. People talk about journaling a lot, but that's about getting yourself clear of what you want, because how can the universe give you anything if you're having 70,000 thoughts a day going off in all directions? So, get yourself into the meditative state. Jennifer said the beautiful way of getting yourself in a meditative state with, like I said, the music and the smells all around you with the smudges, and write down your goals or intentions. And that's a beautiful way to shift your consciousness to be more aware. And I hope it helps. And we're all here to help people. So that's what we're here for.
Yes, thank you, Brenda. And Anna, absolute last one, because we're just over 2 hours now, so we're going to have to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to follow up on Brenda. I think it's really important to set a sacred space for yourself every day. Because in sacred space, you set yourself up for I don't know what it's called. Well, you set yourself up for beauty, really. Like Brendan says, surround yourself with things that inspire you, that make you feel comfortable, that make you feel beautiful. And then practice your craft and take care of your tools.
Yes, and I think Paul is giving us a demonstration of surrounding himself with things that are beautiful and mean a lot to him there. Yeah, I thought so. Brilliant. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody who's been watching as well. What an amazing show today was. So before I do the conclusion, just let me tell you the important bits. We are not going to be back for 3 weeks until the 20th of April, when we're actually back talking about the greater good, which was mentioned today, and the importance of being a conscious creator. And so I hope you can all wait that long. Please stay active in the group. It's such an honor to have 111 members in the group now. And so we're looking forward to seeing more of you at the shows when we get back, and also telling us what you'd like to hear from us, what you'd like us to discuss, and all those kind of things, so that we can create shows for you. So just to conclude, I mean, some of the things I felt about being unconscious. If you're often unhappy, demotivated, and not really enjoying your life, these can all be signs that you're still not making conscious decisions. Unconsciousness is just a lack of awareness. It's a lack of maybe even awareness that you have power, that you are equal to everybody else, and that you are entitled to live an amazing life like all of us and many other people. Bad habits, they are easily inherited, but very rewarding to get rid of. And also thoughts too. So really, like, becoming a conscious creator is about becoming mindful about who you are. Yeah. Generate awareness of what you want, and then setting clear intent and working towards it. It's about tidying everything up on the inside so that you can radiate beauty on the outside. And that's what we all spend our lives doing. And it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. So thank you all.